What's going on, everybody? Republic Cinema here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at every single Transformers Age of Extinction mainline figure. After all, we are coming up on that 10-year anniversary mark for Transformers Age of Extinction. Starting off with Wave 1 of the Deluxes, here we have High Octane Bumblebee, which had a pretty nice alternate mode. And then after that was Crosshairs, which was kibbled up like crazy, but of course the design was a little hard to replicate in figure form at the time. It's also worth mentioning that there was a national limited edition exclusive version where he came in an Oreo box. Very interesting. And then moving on into our first introduction of the Dinobots of the main line, we got Slug, which was purple and a deluxe class. And then the same thing with Scorn. He was a deluxe class as well, except he had a little bit more red. And then moving on into the Voyagers for Wave 1, here we have Grimlock, which had an interesting paint job, but it looked alright. And then, of course, there was the Voyager class Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, which was a great mold at the time. It's also worth mentioning that there was a repaint of this figure that never was released at all. And then moving on to the only three leaders of this line was, of course, Grimlock, and a leader class 9 Optimus Prime, which was kibble-tastic, yet still a pretty interesting figure. It's worth mentioning that there were a few prototype variants that were floating around on the aftermarket, one with an unreleased mouthpiece as well. But then moving on into the third leader class was another Optimus Prime, but it was known as the first edition Optimus Prime and was a little bit more kibble-tastic than the other one, and let's be honest, it looked much better in the package. Moving on into Wave 2, we got Bugatti Drift in Deluxe class and came with not just 2 swords, but 2 daggers. And wrapping up the Dinobot team, here we have Strafe, which came with a missile launcher. But then there was Slash, which was also a Dinobot, but a concept character that never made it into the film. After that was a Deluxe class Lockdown. However, I hear this figure came in a little late. But moving on into the Voyagers was a Voyager class Hound, which came with a buttload of accessories, making it one of the best figures of the main line. And then there was Galvatron, which had a little bit of a downgrade in regards of articulation and transformation, but was still an okay figure as it came with a nice accessory. And then moving on into Wave 3, there were only 3 Deluxes, that being a concept Snarl. And then there was a Crosshairs repaint of Hotshot. Very interesting. But then after that was another Bumblebee. It was the updated 2014 Camaro Bumblebee, and this ought to be one of the coolest Bumblebees at the time. Moving on into the Voyagers was a repaint and a remold of a previous Voyager class figure, but Drift was given a Voyager scale. And then there was Slog. Weird toy, weird name. Sludge would have been a better name. And then moving on into exclusives was a Target exclusive 2-pack of a Silver Knight repaint of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe class Optimus Prime and a Grimlock. Wrong Grimlock though. And then aside from some Legend scale figures, Walmart did have an exclusive 3-pack of Strafe, Legend scale Bumblebee, and Stinger. And at the time, since Toys R Us was still around, and it was also the 30-year anniversary of Transformers, Toys R Us decided to do Evolution 2-pack of Optimus Prime. They also did one with Grimlock. They also did one with Bumblebee, they also did one with Slug, and then they also did one with Strafe. And then Costco also did a repack and repaint of the Dark of the Moon leader class Bumblebee. And then moving on into some Platinum Edition stuff, there was a 2-pack repainted Grimlock and Optimus Prime. There was one that was a Voyager, and then there was also one for the leader class scale. After that was the Breakout Battle, which came with a repainted Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, a repainted crankcase, which was called the Viacon, and then of course there was Rollbar, which is a very hard to find figure, and then there was the Autobots United multi-pack, which came with all 5 of the Autobots with really nice repaints, even somewhat improving Crosshairs. And there was also a Dinobots Unleashed multi-pack, which came with some clear plastic versions of the figures, and also included Slog. There was also a G1 version of this multi-pack as well, only Scorn was swapped out for Snarl to make things more G1 accurate. And if that wasn't enough, there was a San Diego Comic-Con version of this multi-pack, to which the box would convert into a playset. And then the Silver Knight Optimus came in a multi-pack with a G1-ish sort of trailer, and a repaint of Swerve, which was labeled as Sideswipe. And if that wasn't enough, there was a Target exclusive Silver Knight repaint of the first edition Optimus Prime. Moving on into the Takara Movie Advance stuff, there was a few microns and extra accessories, but I won't be getting into that. I'm just going to focus on the figures. So starting off with AD01, I believe AD is short for Advanced, we got Leader Class Optimus Prime, which is repainted on the chest and the head. And just look at how a lick of a paint on the chest and head can make such a big difference. That looks nice. Same thing with AD02, only it's for the Voyager class. But the Voyager class still looks nice. I see there's a few parts like the arm and the feet that are repainted gray, kind of reminiscing the Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime. Moving on to AD03 was a repaint of the Voyager class Grimlock. Whilst this one and the original look a little similar, there are a few paint differences. AD04 was a repaint of the High Octane Bumblebee. Fun fact, my very first movie Bumblebee figure ever. Yes, that is correct, my first movie toy Bumblebee was a Japanese exclusive. AD05 was a repaint of Deluxe Class Scorn. There are a few paint differences, most notably the knife. AD06 was a repaint of Crosshairs. Whilst this repaint is nice, the Autobots United Crosshairs was a little bit better. AD07 was a repaint of Scorn, which kind of looked like the original, but the paint was a little bit more shinier. AD08 was somewhat a golden repaint of the Battle Blades Bumblebee. Interesting that they chose one of the older mainline figures for this, but they did that more often, as they also did it with the Protoform Optimus Prime to make him look a little bit more G1 accurate, I suppose. This is number AD09, by the way. AD10 was a 2007 repaint of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Starscream. AD11 was a dispenser repaint of the old 2007 Payload. AD12 was a nice repaint of the battle-damaged Voyager class Optimus Prime. AD13 was a repaint of the old Revenge of the Fallen Legend Scale Devastator. AD14 was a repaint of, I believe, the Dark of the Moon Jolt. This guy came with extra accurate accessories, unlike the other iterations. AD15 was a G1 repaint of the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Ratchet. AD16 was a Dino repaint of the old Revenge of the Fallen Sideways. AD17 was a darker repaint of Dark of the Moon's Soundwave. When asking Google about which figure is AD18, it won't directly tell you, but I believe it is the Expo exclusive Nemesis Prime, which is very rare. And with AD19, it's the same thing, only it's a Grimlock this time. Speaking of Grimlock, AD20 was a Black Knight repaint of the Leader Class Grimlock. AD21 was the Voyager Class Hound, only with a few additional paint apps. AD22 was the Voyager Class Galvatron, also with a few additional paint apps, most notably on the face. AD23 was a Deluxe Drift, only with a shinier shade of blue, and a darker chest. AD24 was Strafe. Doesn't seem as if there's any paint differences, but I believe there are some paint differences to the original. AD25 was Slash, only with a shinier shade of blue. Not gonna lie, improves the toy a bit. AD26 was a Lockdown, except a little bit more accurate, and the paint job really improves the figure. AD27 was a repaint of the Deluxe Bumblebee. Whilst it may look like nothing has changed, there are a few differences here and there. AD28 was a minor repaint of Snarl, just a few bits and pieces repainted black. AD29 was, I don't even know if Slog right here was repainted. Let me know in the comments. But what I do know is that AD30 was a minor repaint of Drift. You could see with the arms and the feet. AD31 was an epic repaint of the Leader Class Optimus Prime. It was known as the Armor Knight Optimus Prime, and let's be honest, this thing is amazing. It's also worth mentioning that there was a prototype version of this floating around on the aftermarket. Still is to this day, actually. And then finally, rounding it off on AD32 was a Stinger repaint of Bumblebee. This was an underrated repaint. To me, honestly, it beats the Studio series. And no, we're not done yet. We still have some movie advanced exclusives, most of them being from Toys R Us. But starting off, here we have a Wheeljack repaint of the rare Dark of the Moon Q, and a silvery repaint of the Dark of the Moon Sideswipe, and Robar finally gets an individual release. The only problem is he's an exclusive. On top of that, he was only sold in Japan, so yeah. Same thing for the rusty repaint of the Evasion Mode Optimus Prime as well. It wasn't the most accurate figure, but it was still accurate to a lot of people who wanted this guy. He ended up being over $100 if you wanted to get him in the US. Another interesting exclusive is an Army Camo repaint of the Voyager Class Hound, which was only exclusively sold with a DVD for some reason. There was also a Toys R Us exclusive Black Knight repaint of the Armor Knight Optimus Prime, underrated repaint. Speaking of Black Knight repaints, there was a Black Knight repaint for the Deluxe Class Scorn, much better than the original repaint. There was also a Black Knight repaint for the Deluxe Class Scorn, which had a little bit of scuffs of orange. It would have been better if it was a little bit red, but this is fine. And then lastly, there was a Black Knight repaint for the Deluxe Class Strafe, and let me tell you, Strafe looks so much better like this. Amazing. And then lastly, for exclusives, there were 2 individual Takara releases of the Platinum Edition Dinobots, one being for Grimlock and the other being for Slug. The reason as to why the other 2 Dinobots plus the concept ones not having their own individual G1 releases is yet to be known. Moving on into the extremely rare, most valuable stuff is this golden Voyager class Optimus Prime, which was extremely rare and is in the aftermarket for about a good $3,000. Literally the same scenario with the Leader Class Knight Optimus Prime. Except, although he might have been on the aftermarket, I think he sold. Someone was actually brave enough to buy it. And then there were also some rare silver repaints of the High Octane Bumblebee, Deluxe Class Slug also got one. Deluxe Class Crosshairs got one, making him the most valuable Deluxe Class Crosshairs. And Scorn even got one. Yeah, one of these sold for just $1 shy of $700. Well, anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I had to cover for in this video. If there's any figure I'm missing from the Age of Extinction toy line, you are more than welcome to let me know in the comments. But anyways, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See ya!